These are the 12 oddest things found from police searches. Let's begin the countdown with number 12, Wi-Fi. In a case of mistaken identity, police smashed through the windows of an ordinary house in a quiet neighborhood, only for the door to be opened and the occupant innocent of the threats that the police suspected she had made against them. Her Wi-Fi was an open network that a boy had accessed from his mobile. In the end, the police did catch up with that boy. Number 11, a well-known bear costume. In one police raid, empty fancy dress characters' heads were found. One of these heads was of a well-known bear that cannot be named for legal reasons. Maybe one of those heads was what the burglar was wearing to make a successful getaway. Number 10, a lion's skull. Found in one police raid that took place in London, the skull of a male lion was discovered along with many rhino horns and elephant tusks. There have been many raids by police and a rising number of skulls are being found, having been brought into the UK by traders. Alarmed by this, police needed to find support and raise an appeal. This illegal misuse of wildlife did eventually spark an appeal that was publicly endorsed by celebrities and helped in raising awareness of this crime and aided in preventing it. Number 9, 39,000 bees. The police had been called in by the owner of 39,000 bees in needing them to help find and recover his vast collection of bees. I suppose he had looked all over his house. Whether these were prized bees or not, the owner was extremely distressed. It does make you wonder, how does a person steal 39,000 bees and where do they keep them? This thief must have been a beekeeper himself. Perhaps the burglar was jealous of this person's bees and wanting the honey for himself, decided to steal them. Number 8, 2 watches found inside a pot plant. These 3 items found inside of the other showed up in police custody to much hilarity amongst Merseyside police station staff. Police included the items of their social media page in hope that the person missing these items may claim them back. A mystery surrounds these watches and pot plant. The question becomes, were the watches stolen and hidden in the pot plant until the thief was able to return? Or was the owner simply careless and left them in the pot plant, forgetting they were there? Were the watches planted? Number 7, koi fish. Yes, even koi fish have value. It was koi fish that Austin police was searching for after receiving information that a number of the species of fish had been stolen and made headlines when raiding the home of a native Austin resident. Officers even looked in the place where koi fish would not be able to sustain life, such as a closet. Eventually, they found koi fish in the homeowner's pond, but these were proven to be fish that belonged to the owner and were not stolen. No surprise at all, number 6 is sex toys. On one SWAT drug and prostitution raid, sex toys, lubricant and condoms were found and seized. Of course, not only do these items have their uses for concealing drugs, but are also handy for, well, providing some relief for criminals on the run. Oddly, green pajamas that were not being worn at the time were also an item found and taken in with the rest of the stolen items recovered by the officers in charge of the raid. Number 5, a coin-operated carousel. Until this raid, officers of the SWAT team thought they had seen and heard it all. But this raid proved to be very different from any other, due to the strange and miscellaneous objects that they found while raiding this suburban house. Objects found including a battery-operated carousel, power tools, an electric pottery wheel, dozens of bicycles in various states of disassembly, and a former Navy's corpsman sea bag. These items were recovered and their rightful owners came forward to claim them. Number 4, a lock of George Washington's hair. A lock of precious fiber from the head of George Washington, who had died 2 centuries previously, was stolen from a museum in France during the 1980s, and 5 years later, during a raid on the hideout of a drug dealer, it is found, with another stolen lock of hair by the French police and then returned to the museum. Once proven, it is the very hair that had been missing. Museum curators were relieved to have it back where it belonged. Beginning our top 3 is 2 war tanks. Police in Brazil were expecting to find stolen cars when they raided a warehouse, but instead found 2 war tanks almost as tall as the warehouse itself. Also in the warehouse were 500 television sets and car body parts. Although it is safe to say the biggest discovery that day was the 2 tanks, though it must have been intriguing to call up all the army units to ask if they had lost or even had stolen any of their tanks. Number 2. A to-do list. Australian police stopped and searched inside a home on their Saturday morning shift and did not expect to find a to-do list, which scribbled instructions written on it which read, amongst other things, chop up and get stoned, as the last bullet point on the list. A very organized burglar indeed. Police had wanted to search for evidence related to a robbery, but instead that day they got a drug bust. Finishing off our countdown is number 1. Duvet filled with coconuts. The police in Manchester were called to the canal, having been alerted by a member of the public who had seen what they had thought to be a dead body wrapped in some kind of cloth laying on top of the water. While at first gruesome, this then took a strange turn as police fished out the body and brought it to dry land. This dead body then turned out to be a duvet filled with coconuts.